The first time I saw the trail, it wasn't on a map. It was in a report. Subject located a marked path approximately 20 minutes after initial distress call. Believed he had found a maintained trail. Continued following it. I remember pausing there, rereading that line. Believed he had found a maintained trail. That phrasing comes up a lot in missing person reports. People think they've found a way out. Usually it's just a game trail or a dry creek bed, something that looks right until it doesn't. You see it enough times it stops meaning anything. But this one had coordinates attached, and when I dropped them into the system, there was nothing there. No trail, no marker, not even an unofficial path. Just untouched forest. I work overnight doing data review for search and rescue. GPS logs, emergency call transcripts, body cam uploads when we have them. Most of it is routine. People get turned around, panic, make bad decisions. We reconstruct their last known movements, try to figure out where things went wrong. Patterns matter in this job, and that report wasn't the only one. The second file came from a hiker who never made it out. Same phrasing. I found a trail. I'm following it now. I think it loops back toward the parking area. Different location, different day, different person. I checked the coordinates again. Nothing. No trail on any layer. Current maps, archived surveys, even older ranger notes. That area had been surveyed after a wildfire about 10 years back. If there had ever been a trail there, it would have shown up somewhere. It didn't. By the third report, I stopped assuming coincidence. This one had audio attached. The caller sounded calm, relieved even. I think I'm good now, he said. Trail's marked. Didn't see it on the way in, but it's here. Must have missed it. There was a pause, the sound of footsteps on dirt. Then, that's weird. What is? The dispatcher asked. The marker says 14. I don't remember seeing 13. Static cut across the line a second later. That was the last transmission. I pulled every case from the past 6 months that involved lost hikers in that region. 7 total. 5 of them mentioned finding a trail. 4 specifically described it as marked. 3 referenced numbers. None of those trails exist. I overlaid all their GPS data onto a single map. At first, it looked like noise, random drift, signal loss, the usual inconsistencies you get in dense forest. But then I noticed something. Right before each signal went dark, there was a shift. Subtle, easy to miss. The path would straighten. Not toward a known trailhead, not toward a road, just into the trees. As if they'd stopped wandering and started following something. I leaned back in my chair staring at the screen. 7 people, all lost in different areas, all eventually finding a trail, all describing the same thing. And every single one of those trails didn't exist. That should have been the end of it. Log the anomaly, flag it for review, let day shift decide if it meant anything. But one of the GPS tracks updated while I was still looking at it. That doesn't happen. Not unless the device is still active. Not unless someone's still out there. A new point appeared on the map, then another. A clean line forming where there hadn't been one before. I zoomed in slowly. The system tried to assign it to a known route. It failed. Then, after a second, a label appeared anyway. Not from any map layer I recognized. Not from any database I had access to. Just a simple designation, like it had always been there. Trail 14. I stared at it for a long time before I realized something else. The path wasn't just appearing. It was moving. And whatever was generating it was heading deeper into the forest. I checked the device ID first. That's protocol. Every GPS ping has a signature, serial number, last sync, registered owner. Even damaged units leave something behind. This one didn't. No owner, no history, no recovery log. Just a live signal. Moving. I zoomed in. The path forming on my screen was clean, straight, not the erratic drift you get from someone lost. Whoever this was, they weren't wandering anymore. They were following something. I pulled up the last case in that area. Daniel Hargrove, missing 3 days. His final call played automatically. "I think I found a trail," he said. Calm, relieved. "It's marked. I'm just going to follow it out." The audio cut. I looked back at the map. The new signal started exactly where his had ended. That shouldn't be possible. Devices don't come back online like that, not after days, not without showing a break in the log. This one didn't. It looked continuous, like it had never stopped moving. Another point appeared, then another. The line extended forward, steady, deliberate, no hesitation, no turns. I pulled up the terrain overlay. Ahead was rough ground, steep elevation, dense forest, no established routes. The path didn't care. It went straight through. I switched to satellite. At first, nothing. Then I adjusted the contrast. For just a second, I saw it. A faint break in the canopy, too narrow for a road, too clean to be random. A line, cutting deeper into the woods. The image reset. The line was gone. The GPS updated again. Trail 14. I checked the timestamp. 2:13 a.m., same as every final call. I pulled all the audio logs together. 7 voices, different people, same moment. "I found a trail. I think I'm okay now. It's marked." That's weird. I replayed the last seconds, slower. There was something underneath the voices, not wind, not static. Footsteps. More than one. Out of sync. I muted the audio and looked back at the map. The path was longer now, farther than any of the others had gone. Then the system did something I've never seen before. It tried to generate a route. Not from a trailhead, not from a road, just from the signal. Back toward something. For a split second, a second line appeared, running parallel, going the opposite direction. Then it disappeared. I leaned closer to the screen. The GPS ping updated again, closer now, not deeper into the forest. Closer to the edge of the grid. Closer to something real. I zoomed out. The path stretched across the terrain like a thread being pulled tight. And that's when it clicked. The others hadn't stopped moving. Their signals didn't end. They just stopped being tracked. Another point appeared, then another. The line kept forming, steady, unbroken. Whoever was out there was still following the trail. I should have called it in. That's what protocol says. Active signal, unidentified device, possible survivor. You escalate. Wake someone up. Get a team moving before daylight. I didn't. I kept watching. The line moved steadily across the map. Not fast, not slow, just consistent. Like whoever was out there had already decided where they were going. I pulled up the other GPS logs again, all 7 cases. This time I focused on the last few minutes before each signal dropped. There was a pattern I hadn't noticed before. At first, their paths were chaotic, sharp turns, backtracking, circles tightening in on themselves. Then suddenly, they straightened. Every time. I overlaid them. 7 different routes, 7 different starting points, all eventually forming the same shape. A straight line, heading in the same direction, toward nothing. No trailhead, no road, no ranger station, just deeper forest. I leaned forward, studying the endpoints. They didn't scatter, they didn't fade. They converged. Not perfectly, but close enough to matter, like all of them had found the same place. The live signal updated again. Closer. The line it was drawing now overlapped one of the older paths almost exactly. I opened the body cam file from the third case, the one with audio. It took a second to load, then the footage appeared. Night, dense trees, flashlight beam shaking with each step, heavy breathing. "I think this is it," the voice said. "This has to be it." The beam passed over the ground, packed dirt, too smooth to be natural, too clean for an unmaintained trail. Then it lifted. A wooden post stood just off the path. The camera caught it for half a second. A number carved into the face. 14. I froze the frame, zoomed in. The edges of the carving were fresh, clean, not weathered, not old. The footage skipped. The hiker was farther along now, moving faster. Relief had turned into urgency. "I should have seen this before," he said. "How did I miss this?" The beam swung left and right. Trees, darkness, the path stretching forward. Then he slowed. The camera dipped slightly. "Hold on." I leaned closer to the screen. "Do you hear that?" he said. The audio picked it up this time. Footsteps. Not his. Faint. Behind him. The camera jerked as he turned. The beam cut across empty trail. Nothing there. He stood still for a moment, listening. Then, quietly, "Hello?" No response. Just the sound of movement. Not ahead, not to the sides. Behind him. The footage cut out. I sat back, staring at the frozen frame. Then I looked at the live map again. The signal was almost perfectly aligned with that same stretch of trail now. Another point appeared. Closer. I checked the timestamp. 2:13 a.m. The audio logs, the GPS shifts, the straightened paths, the marker. They all happened at the same moment. I opened the remaining body cam files. Most were incomplete, fragments, corrupted clips, partial uploads. But in every one that had usable footage, there was a trail. Sometimes faint, sometimes clear. Always marked. And in the final seconds of each clip, the same thing. They stopped. Not because they were tired, not because they were lost, because they heard something. I pulled up the live signal again. It had slowed, not much, just enough to notice. Another point appeared, then nothing. For a few seconds, the map stayed still. I held my breath without realizing it. Then the line moved again, but this time, it wasn't heading deeper into the forest. It had changed direction, very slightly, just enough to tell. Whoever was out there had stopped following the trail and started turning around. I stared at the map, waiting for it to correct itself. GPS drift happens. Signals bounce, lines jitter. This didn't. The path held steady, and it wasn't going deeper anymore. It was coming back. I zoomed in, watching the most recent points populate one at a time. Each new coordinate landed cleanly over the previous path, perfectly aligned, as if whoever was walking it didn't need to search anymore. They already knew the way. I pulled up the older tracks again, all 7. For the first time, I extended them past the final recorded point, extrapolating direction, projecting movement based on their last known heading. Every single one pointed the same way. Back. I felt something tighten in my chest. They hadn't just found the trail. They had all reached the same place. and whatever was there had sent something back. The system chimed softly. A new data source registered. I froze. That shouldn't happen without a field deployment. No team had been dispatched. No equipment had been checked out. New device detected. I clicked it. The map flickered. Then a second line appeared. This one didn't start deep in the forest. It started farther up the path, closer to the outer grid, closer to known terrain. I checked the device ID. Same problem. No registry, no history, no owner. Two signals now, both moving, both following the same path. One heading out, one heading in. I swallowed, forcing myself to think. Search and rescue sometimes picks up overlapping pings, old devices, partial signals, interference from overlapping frequencies. But those don't move like this. They don't track clean. They don't mirror each other. These did. I overlaid both paths. They lined up perfectly, point for point, step for step, like something was retracing the exact route back out. The audio logs echoed in my head. Footsteps. Not his. I opened the most recent feed again. There was no video, just GPS, but the timestamps kept updating. 2:13 a.m. The incoming signal reached the point where Daniels had originally gone dark. It didn't stop. It passed it. I felt my hand tighten on the edge of the desk. That was the boundary. That was where every previous case had ended, and this one had just crossed it. Another update, closer now. I switched to the wider map. The outer grid came into view. Service roads, ranger stations, parking areas, real places, mapped places. The line was heading straight for them. I checked the second signal, the one deeper in the forest. Still moving, still following the trail inward. More points appeared, more movement. Then something changed. The spacing. The returning signal was moving faster, not by much, but enough. I pulled up the raw data, stride length, interval timing. It didn't match a normal walking pattern. It was too consistent, too precise, like it wasn't adjusting for terrain, like it wasn't reacting to anything around it. I sat back slowly, a cold realization settling in. The people in the logs, they got lost. They panicked. They searched. But whatever was coming back, it wasn't lost. The system chimed again. Another device registered, then another. My screen filled with new signals, each one appearing farther down the path, all of them moving in the same direction. Out. I stared at the map, trying to count them. 3, 5, 7, more. Each one aligned perfectly to the same route, each one following the exact same line. The trail wasn't just bringing one thing back. It was bringing all of them back. I felt something shift behind me, a subtle sound, the building settling maybe, or something else. I didn't turn around. My eyes stayed locked on the screen. The closest signal reached the edge of the mapped trail network. One more update, one more step. Then it crossed into a known access road, a real place, a place I could see if I pulled up the right camera. I hesitated for a second. Then I opened the nearest roadside feed. The camera flickered, adjusted, focused. Empty road, dark tree line. Still. I exhaled slowly. Then something moved at the edge of the frame, just beyond the reach of the light. A shape, standing where the road met the forest. Not stepping out, just waiting. The GPS updated again. and the signal stopped. Right there, at the edge of the woods. I kept the roadside camera open. The figure didn't move. It stood just beyond the reach of the light, where the trees swallowed everything past a certain distance. No detail, no face, just a shape, fixed at the edge of the road like it had been placed there, waiting. The GPS signal held steady on that same point. No drift, no jitter, just a perfect lock. Behind it, more signals continued moving, one after another, stepping along the same invisible path, closing the distance to the road. I switched back to the map. They were all converging. Every track, every line, all leading to the same place. A trailhead. Except there wasn't one there. Not on any map I had access to. The system flickered. A notification slid into the corner of my screen. Route confirmed. I frowned. That wasn't a function we used for missing persons. Another notification followed. Verify trailhead access. No sender, no attached case, just the prompt. I stared at it for a few seconds before realizing my hand was already moving. Mouse drifting, cursor hovering over the roadside camera again. The figure was still there, closer now. I hadn't seen it move, but it was closer. The light from the road cut across part of its arm. Fabric. Dark. Worn. I zoomed in. The image broke apart slightly, pixels stretching under the magnification, but I could make out enough. A sleeve. A patch. Search and rescue. My throat tightened. Another signal reached the road, then another, each one stopping in the same place, just inside the tree line. The first figure stepped forward. Not quickly, not hesitantly, just one smooth, deliberate step into the edge of the light. It didn't look injured, didn't look disoriented. It looked calm. The camera adjusted exposure automatically. For a split second, the face came into focus. I recognized it. Daniel Hargrove. 3 days missing. My hand slipped off the mouse. I stared at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing. That wasn't possible. The system chimed again. Another notification. Trailhead verified. The roadside feed glitched, the image distorted, horizontal lines tearing across the frame. Then it stabilized. The trees behind Daniel shifted, not in the wind, not naturally. They rearranged. The darkness between them deepened, stretching into something more defined. A path. I felt a cold pressure settle in my chest. The trail wasn't in the forest. The forest was forming around the trail. Daniel turned his head slightly, not toward the road, toward the camera. His expression didn't change, but his eyes, they locked directly onto the lens. The GPS updated again, then something new appeared on the map. Not in the forest, not along the road. Inside the grid. Inside the building. A single point. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Another point appeared beside it, then another, forming a line. I slowly turned my head toward the back of the office. The emergency exit door sat at the end of the hallway, still closed. A faint sound carried through the building, soft, rhythmic. Footsteps. Not outside. Inside. I looked back at the monitor. The interior camera feed had opened on its own. The hallway, empty. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Then, movement at the far end. A figure stepped into view. Same posture, same steady pace. The system timestamp flickered in the corner of the screen. 2:13 a.m. The figure moved closer, one step at a time. No hesitation, no uncertainty, like it already knew the way. The map updated again. The line inside the building extended forward. One final notification appeared. Trail 14. Active. I stared at it, my reflection faint in the glass of the monitor. Every missing person found the same thing, a trail that wasn't on any map. They followed it, believed it would lead them out. And maybe it did. Just not back to where they started. The hallway camera flickered. For a split second, I saw myself sitting at the desk, perfectly still, staring at the screen. Then the image shifted, and the version of me in the feed stood up. If you made it this far, you already know that trail wasn't real. At least, not at first. But every person who found it believed the same thing, that they were finally safe, that they had found a way out. And maybe that's how it works. Maybe it doesn't exist until you need it to. Maybe it only appears when you're lost enough to trust it. So if you ever find yourself out there, deep in the woods, and your map shows a path that wasn't there before, don't follow it. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more of these. And if you've ever been hiking and felt like something wasn't quite right, drop your story in the comments. I read all of them. I'll see you in the next one. Just stay on the trail.